I'm currently on top of a bird stand in North End Park, down the White Diamond path of the Monty Sutherland Memorial Trail in White Pines Bluff, North Carolina, around a mile after the waterfall. If you can send help, please come. Send someone immediately. It had been a very nice spring week before I decided to come out here. The heat previously was awful, but a few recent storms had cooled it off nicely and made perfect birdwatching weather. I knew a spot in North End Park, a nature preserve about 2 hours from where I lived, remembering it from when I'd hiked there with my troop and scouts. It was quite a bit of a trek there, around 4 miles till the section where I had to leave the path and another mile eastward off trail to get to the actual spot. It isn't much, an old bird stand about 20 feet or so from the ground, but it looked out into a large clearing where you were able to see a lot of woods at once, great for spotting, especially for cardinals and finches, this deep into the brush. I was up here maybe an hour, not seeing much and having eaten my lunch. The only food I had packed, except for an extra half-gallon water jug and a few protein bars I had miscellaneously tucked into random pockets in my pack. That was when I resumed my activities and looked back into the clearing. I scanned around the midline of the trees. That is where songbirds like to make their nests, when I noticed a bit of rustling in a tall bit of brush below my eyeline. I was about to look down when the corner of my eye caught it, and I froze. I only saw it in my periphery. The details were scant, but the image terrified me. Seemingly staring right at me was a face. Nothing human or animal, something wrong. I could see its skin, red like degloved flesh, wet striations like muscle poking through thinned skin. I couldn't see its eyes. They appeared to be very sunken in, and without looking directly at it, they were practically invisible to me. But then my attention traveled downward. Below the cheekbones that hard-lined where the eyes should be was a noseless smile, wide and wild, covering the whole face from side to side. Unnaturally sharp and toothless, beyond the grin only blackness hinting at a horrific maw. I sat there a moment. My initial instinct was to look at it, as if it were only a figment of the rustling leaves, but something deeper in me told me not to. Something primal in me screamed into the back of my brain not to look at it. That's when the light caught it just right, and the eyes were revealed to me. Large pupils and irises covering almost the whole eye except for the very edges as they contracted the skin with whites. They were dark, not even glistening, as if they were eating all the light as it came. Through the edge of my sight, I could sense it, like it was looking through my binoculars, like it was daring me to stare it in the face, the grimace unchanging in my resistance. That same voice told me to act normal, to pretend not to see it, so I continued to scan around, occasionally passing by its line of sight, leaving quickly and not looking directly into its eaten gaze. After a moment of this, I went for my phone. My spouse knew where I was. If I could call, if I could communicate that something was wrong, maybe someone would come for me. As I pulled out my phone and tried to make the call, it immediately died. This far into the woods, even as high up as I am, there was no hope for service. I tried calling 911, but the same thing. The line instantly went dead. Not wanting to tip off that something was wrong, I silently swore to myself and tried to go back to normal, picking my binoculars from my lap and returning to that same line as before. But as I started to move, I noticed a difference. The rustling had faded, and that thing wasn't in that place anymore. Moving my eyes to look at it directly, I saw some kind of smeared red, glistening liquid that was left on the leaves that it had been embedded. A moment of foolish hope crossed me as another of pure terror followed as I found myself unaware of the creature's new position, before out of the corner of my eye, I had spotted it. Once again, only in my periphery, That same face sat, this time in the location I had originally looked and lingered when I first saw it, seemingly chasing my gaze. Its expression still unchanged as it stared through me. Out of reflex, as the shock ran through me, I jolted my arm, accidentally knocking my pack off the stand. It felt like an eternity as I listened to it fall, eventually landing with a watery sploosh sound as the leftover jug popped. A bolt of realization hit me as I remembered the radio phone I kept in the pack, and another of panic as the thought of the water soiling it came. In fear but driven by adrenaline, I rushed down the ladder. Given its previous speed, I knew if I tried to run, I would likely be caught, but I thought I would have enough time to grab the watered pack and bolt back up the ladder. I was able to grab it and reach a halfway point before I heard and then saw something like the previous rustling in the bush just beside the blind and spotted a corner of movement which spurned me even further. A smell like rotting flesh and fetid blood overcame the air as I fought my gag reflex while climbing and getting to the top. In reaction, I immediately grabbed and threw the jug still in the bag, landing with a quiet thud a couple of dozen feet away, taking the radio phone out and immediately drying it against my chest. My first call was to emergency services. I gave them the best directions I could, but the line was breaky, only being able to hear back a few static words before the line was ended. I tried to then call my spouse, but nothing went through. I'm now sitting writing this. The smell is still here. I can hear some sort of labored breathing below me. I know it is there, but I dare not look at it. I'm writing between intermittent breaks of looking back up at the birds to try to avoid suspicion. I was able to get a single bar, not enough to make a call, but enough to send a few texts and post this. Once again, my first was to emergency services and then to my spouse. I assume this will be the last thing I'm able to write and post before that bar is gone again, so I reiterate. I am currently on top of a bird stand in North End Park, down the White Diamond path of the Monty Sutherland Memorial Trail in White Pines Bluff, North Carolina, around a mile after the waterfall. If you can send help, please come. Send someone. Immediately. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. A quick shout out to my patrons, Old Penguin, Rinku Star, Melissa Perez, Icy Narrates, Seven Cities Journalist, Cupcake Hips, Eric Cifuentes, Alonso, Austin My Love, Ellie Hutmeyer, Jesse Hartley, Lawrence Wallen, Mr. Sankofa, and William Hartley. I always try to link a different charity in the description, so go ahead and check that out. I'm also going to start having more things on my Patreon soon, so keep your eyes peeled. And as always, I'd love to know how I can be praying for you, so go ahead and drop a comment and let me know how I can do that. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you in the next video.